one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it, because you can.
This story comes to us from Newsweek magazine, where a police officer in Jonesboro, Arkansas has been fired after he was caught on video beating an inmate who was being transferred from a hospital in the back of a patrol car. Now, Jonesboro Police Chief Rick Elliott told Newsweek magazine that he fired Joseph Harris on Friday of last week after he received a complaint from the sheriff's office and reviewed the video.
This officer had conduct that was unbecoming, unprofessional, and it was conduct that I'm not going to tolerate, and the consequence is he was terminated.
The chief says due to the egregious nature of this incident, he was immediately terminated, he said in a phone call to Newsweek. He said it was unacceptable. Less than 6 hours after I reviewed the video, he was terminated. But will he be charged? That's the real question, for assault or whatever. Elliott stated that he has spoken with a local prosecutor and has been in conversation with the FBI office in Little Rock in response to the incident. Now, the inmate in the back of the patrol car was a man named Billy Lee Corum. Billy Lee Corum had been held at Craighead County Jail on Monday of last week on escape charges and is wanted on out-of-state warrants, according to CBS News. He had been taken to a hospital after telling jail staff he ingested fentanyl and escaped from the hospital. He was caught by Harris, who put him in the patrol car and transported him back to the detention center. But in the video, Corum is wearing a blue hospital gown and is seen panting visibly, perspiring, and then choking himself with a seatbelt wrapped around his neck.
The officers found him nearby, and while in the back of the squad car, the inmate repeated that he had fentanyl in his system and he needed to go back to the hospital where he had just escaped.
Sir, will you please listen to me? I have got fentanyl inside of me. Last night, I swallowed. It's in aluminum foil, wrapped up. It's in a baggie. It's in aluminum foil, individually wrapped up in aluminum foil.
This all happened in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The video shows that inmate wiggling around in the back of the car, wrapping the seatbelt around his neck, and that's when the officer got out of the vehicle and began to beat him. The chief says he released the footage in the interest of full transparency.
At one point he asks, "Are y'all trying to kill me?" A police officer in the front of the vehicle answers, "No." Corum then says, "But you don't care." And the police officer responds, "Not really, no." It is unclear which police officer says this. The car is moving in the video, and at one point the car pulls over. Harris then opens the door and punches and elbows Corum several times. He later slams the car door against Corum's head. Harold Koppenhaver, the mayor of Jonesboro, released a statement following the incident. "I've watched the video and I'm appalled because the officer's actions in that video are inexcusable. I'm upset and disappointment because we expect more from our officers. We fully support Chief Elliott's prompt action to terminate the officer. This kind of behavior will not be tolerated and merits investigation." That's according to Koppenhaver, the mayor. In 2022, listen to this, Harris was suspended from the police force for 22 hours after he was caught on video throwing a man to the ground outside a Jonesboro nightclub, according to local news reports from that time. In response to that incident, Elliott said, "It was excessive and I suspended him for that." Elliott confirmed that after the suspension, Harris had to go back to retraining for use of force. I guess it didn't work. It didn't work. At the time, Jonesboro Police Department issued a statement. "We are aware and very concerned about the use of force incident that occurred on July 10th in the parking lot of a Jonesboro nightclub. Upon learning of this incident, we immediately began an investigation into the level of force used by the officers involved during the arrest." Because what had happened in June, Harris, fellow officer Peyton Perkins, and the city of Jonesboro were sued by the estate of a man who died in custody at the Craighead County Sheriff's Office. Brock Austin Tyler died in May, and the lawsuit was filed in June. Attorneys alleged that Harris knew Tyner was a danger to himself and others, and said that if Tyner had been taken to the emergency room, he would not have died. That's according to local news reports. Quote, "We always ask supervisors to scrutinize their arrest videos after that to make sure there's not any kind of patterns," says Chief Elliott. He goes on, "We have a mechanism in place. If officers have multiple complaints against them, then there's a red flag that will pop up in the system." Whoopee-doo, doesn't help, does it? This wasn't the case with him, Elliott said. The fact he had a couple of incidents over his 5-year tenure with the department, this was not indicative of his normal behavior. Bull dookie. Elliott also spoke to Newsweek magazine about the decision to make the video public. He explained that he strives to be transparent with the public when he can. He said, "A lot of times when we get complaints, we feel we have to do an investigation. This incident was egregious enough, but didn't need any kind of investigation. I didn't need a statement from him. He just fired him." Elliott says, "Wrong is wrong." Now, on Friday, this last, Quorum was charged with third-degree escaping from custody, according to local news. His court date is set for September 27th. But so many things I could talk about. I'm just going to make this one point, so this isn't really long. But the chief says, "Well, we suspended him and there was no red flags. A couple of complaints over 5 years. No, a couple of times he got caught. It's not indicative of his normal behavior." Bullshit! This cop has been assaulting people the whole 5 years. You can believe it. I'll put my money on it. He just hasn't been caught. You know how I know? Because that's called human behavior. Human behavior. He just didn't have a bad day and decided to flip a guy on the ground. He just didn't have a bad day and said, "I'm just going to punch this dude in the back of the car." That's his behavior, Chief. That's who he is. But these police chiefs and these sheriffs and these mayors and all these people always say, "Well, this isn't the normal behavior of this officer. He's usually a very good officer and wears medals on his uniform." It's because he hasn't been caught until now. So it's not indicative. I mean, it is indicative of his normal behavior, Chief. Thanks for watching, guys.